323 in the interest of ARW, JMAW, and HW for an initial permanency hearing, as well as the mother's motion for placement of the children, I believe, with her at, I'm not sure, maybe Santa Maria. I'm sure I'll hear. So let me call for the parents. Is Stevie Shockley present?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Ketterman, you are here for her and with her. And next calling for Ken Williams. Mr. Williams, I see Mr. Reisinger.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm here.
Okay, that's Mr. Williams. Actually, very good. And Ms. McPherson for the children. So what, let me get everyone sworn in, and I think I can hear these matters together and just kind of subsume the motion in with the initial permanency hearing. Any strenuous objection to that?
No objection.
No objection.
Okay. All right, let me get the parents and everyone who may testify. If you will raise your right hands at this time to be sworn, please. All right, do you all swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Ms. Walker, you may call your first.
Judge, before we proceed, I would like the court to know that he disappeared. There he is. When it comes to my motion, I do have some very sensitive photographs that I will be offering and sharing with the court. So I don't know how you want me to proceed with that when we're live. Of the children.
Sure, sure. Well, if we can, if it's possible to save those toward the end of the hearing.
Sure.
Then remind me, and we will consider stopping the YouTube and the live stream.
Understood.
And clear the courtroom. Okay, Ms. Walker, you may call your first.
Thank you. And I call the caseworker.
Kara Wright, and I am the caseworker on the case.
And Ms. Wright, first of all, where are the children currently placed?
They are placed in a foster home in Angelina County.
And how are they currently doing in that placement?
They're doing well. They've been sick on and off. The baby had RSV and was hospitalized for precautions. She's recovered and is doing well now. The middle child had been sick as well. They've been sick almost the entirety of the case, on and off with just different things. But they're all doing well right now. They're growing. They're learning how to feed themselves, how to use utensils, just getting used to being around other people. They're very sweet little girls, and they're doing well.
And how old are they now?
5 months, 1 year, and 2 years.
Okay. And you said that they've been sick pretty much for the duration. Have there been any causes that have been pinpointed as to the illnesses, or just, are there any lingering conditions, I guess, like do they have allergies or asthma or?
Nothing yet, no underlying conditions, just general sickness, with the weather changing, things like that.
Okay. Anything that the placement needs or the children need that should be brought to the court's attention today?
No, not at this time.
Now, as to the parents, were there service plans that were created and filed in this case?
Yes, there was.
And first of all, starting with the mother, has she completed or at least initiated any of the services in that service plan?
She did her ADAC assessment in October and then put off going into rehab. Once the children were removed from their relative placement, mom finally did go into treatment.
Objection non-responsive. The question was
Sustain. Only answer what you're being asked.
And has she completed or initiated any of the services in her plan?
Yes.
Okay. And first of all, if any, what services has she completed?
She's completed an ADAC assessment.
Okay. And were there any recommendations as a result of that assessment?
It was recommended that she completes inpatient treatment.
Okay. And has she completed inpatient treatment?
No, she has not.
Okay. Has she initiated or is she currently in inpatient treatment?
Yes, she is.
Okay. And do you know how long she will be there or the program is for?
I do not know for sure. I think 90 days.
Okay. Are there any other items that she's initiated as part of that plan?
Parenting class and drug counseling.
And has she completed the parenting class?
No.
Do you know how many sessions she has left or how many she's completed, whichever way it's easier to answer?
I do not.
Now, as to the parenting classes, is she required to submit a certificate after each class or can submit a certificate? How do you know when her progress in the parenting classes?
Once she's completed the course, then she should provide me with a certificate.
Okay. All right. And you said counseling. Is she currently seeing or in therapy with the counselor at this time?
Yes, she is through Santa Maria.
Okay. All right. Anything else that she has initiated as far as her plan?
No, not to my knowledge.
So at this time, is the mother in compliance with her service plan?
No.
Okay. And now you said she's in treatment, she's in counseling, she's still working on her parenting classes. When you say she's not in compliance, can you, I guess, kind of explain why you're saying she's not in compliance at this time?
She hasn't started or completed enough of her services at the 5-month mark that we feel that she would be in compliance with her service plan.
Okay. Now, as to the father, has he completed or initiated any of the services that's required of him in his service plan?
Yes.
Okay. And what has he completed?
He has completed an ADAC assessment and he has completed a parenting class.
Now, did
hey, excuse me, Judge. I just want to make sure I'm on the right thing. That we're trying to do 2 cases now? Is that what my understanding? Because he says Miss Walker's asked about a father and with no name. So which one are we talking about?
Well, we're talking about Mr. Williams, your client.
Okay. So are we doing
We're doing the initial permanency hearing along with Ms. Ketterman's motion, the mother's motion.
And Ms. Ketterman's motion's on what case is what I'm getting at?
The Williams case, this case.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Ketterman represents who?
The mother, Stevie Shockley.
Okay. Okay. Well, she said father. I thought you were talking about two cases were going at one time, and I didn't hear the name of what father she was talking about. So I just need a clarification.
All right. And that's Ken Williams, the father, next to you, correct?
Correct.
Because I marked him present earlier when he announced. All right. Ms. Walker, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Were there any recommendations as a result of his ADAC assessment?
Yes, inpatient treatment.
Okay. And is he currently in treatment?
No, he is not.
Has he informed you when he will be seeking treatment?
He doesn't think that he needs treatment.
Has he been drug testing for the department?
Yes, he has.
And have any of his drug test results been concerning?
Yes.
Okay. Has he had a drug test that was not concerning?
Yes.
What other, you said that he completed a parenting class. Anything else, any other service that he's initiated?
No, ma'am.
Has he informed you that he does, since he does not feel that he needs treatment, that he will not be seeking treatment?
Yes.
Anything else that he's done?
No, ma'am.
At this time, is he in compliance with his service plan?
No, ma'am.
What is the permanency goal for the children?
Currently, the permanency goal is unrelated adoption with a concurrent goal of family reunification.
Okay. And at this time, do you feel that it's in the children's best interest to remain in their current placement?
I do.
And also, do you feel it's in the children's best interest that at this time the department remain as a temporary managing conservator?
I do.
Do you also feel there would be a continuing danger to the physical health or safety of the children and contrary to their welfare if they were returned to a parent or parents today?
Objection. That calls for a legal conclusion and it's leading.
Overruled.
I do.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Ketterman.
Thank you, Judge. Ma'am, when's the last time you saw the children?
Yesterday.
Okay. Now you testified that you thought they were doing well in their placement. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
How many visits have been missed because the children have been sick?
Mr. Williams, 3 while they were in the previous placement and 2 in the current placement.
Would you agree with me? That's a lot of visits to miss with a parent?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now you talk about previous placement. Where was the previous placement? Was it foster care?
Your client's mother. The previous placement was your client's mother.
Okay, so that was the maternal grandmother. The current is the foster placement, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so you also testified that the kids have been sick almost the entire time they've been in care, correct?
Yes.
And how long have they been in care?
5 months.
Would you agree with me that that's a long time for kids to be continuously sick?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any concerns that they're being continually sick for 5 months could possibly be the foster placement?
Objection, speculation.
No,
Sustained.
they were sick before the foster placement.
Sustained.
Now, do the kids have beds?
Yes, they do.
All 3 of them?
Yes, ma'am.
And when did they get those beds?
At the foster home, they've had beds the entire time.
Well, they haven't had them the entire time at the foster home, have they?
Yes, they have.
Okay. And when you say the kids have been sick, does that include diaper rash?
Yes, after they had diarrhea, they had diaper rash.
That isn't my question. When you say they've been sick, are you including the diaper rash? Or is the diaper rash on top of they've been sick plus they're having diaper rash? Or is the diaper rash on top of they've been sick plus they're having diaper rash?
They had diarrhea, diaper rash because they were sick.
Okay. And how long have they had diaper rash? Let's talk about Jenna. Has Jenna had diaper rash?
Yes, she did.
How long has she had diaper rash?
Little over a week while she had a stomach bug.
And ma'am, I'm not asking you what they had. I just want to know how long she had the diaper rash. So a week?
Probably a little over a week.
Okay. And is that clear? As we sit here as
I
of
believe
yesterday? So. Okay. And what about Hazel? Any diaper rash?
Probably about the same time.
Over a week? Is it during the same time or these different times?
During the same time.
Okay. And Annie, any diaper rash?
I think a little less period of time.
Were you able to observe the diaper rash?
I did not.
Why not?
I did not observe that visit.
Okay. Do you know whether there were concerns about the severity of the diaper rash?
From who?
Anybody.
Yes, the foster mother had concerns, so she consulted the physician who changed what cream she was using to a powder. And that seemed to do better for the girls than the original cream that she was using.
Okay. Were you at the visit on January 5th?
I would have to refer to my notes.
Could you?
Sure. Yes, I was.
Any concerns about the children at that visit?
What kind of concerns?
I don't know. Did you, in observing them, did you have any concerns when you observed the 3 girls at the January 5th visit?
Of their health or with the interaction with mom?
Of their health.
Yes, ma'am. They have been sick.
Okay. What other concern did you have other than them being sick? Just observing them. Anything about them that concerns you?
I'm unsure.
Okay.
I don't understand what you're asking.
I want to know that when you looked at these children, part of when you're as a caseworker, whether you're picking a child up from a parent and removing them, whether you're just investigating, whether you're going to a visit, is you observe the children, correct?
Yes.
You physically look at them.
And they all
objection, non-responsive. My question is, when you physically looked at these children on January 5th, we'll start with Hazel. When you observed her, did you have any concerns? Yes or no?
No.
What about Jenna on January 5th?
No.
And Hazel, January 5th?
You already did Hazel, but you mean Annie. No.
I mean, Annie, I'm sorry, I apologize. Annie. Did you say no to Annie?
No, correct.
Okay. Now, on January 10th, were you at that visit?
No, I was not.
Any notes from that visit that you were given from whoever observed that visit?
That was the visit where Annie was sick. So it was just Hazel and Jenna at the visit.
Annie wasn't there at all?
No, she was not.
Any concerns about Jenna in your notes? Observing her?
No.
How about Hazel?
No.
All right. And then January 12th, Annie, who is now 5 months old, so she was about 4 months old, she had to be taken to Texas Children's Hospital, correct?
That's correct.
She was having trouble breathing?
Yes.
How long had she been sick by the time she was taken to Texas Children's Hospital?
She, maybe 12 hours between the doctor's office and the ride to Texas Children's.
Okay, so she was at the doctor's office before then?
Yes.
Was that on the 12th or on the 11th?
The 11th.
And what did she go to the doctor for?
Because she was sick. So the caregiver took her to the doctor's office, and the doctor's office sent her to Texas Children's as a precaution.
Okay. How long had she been sick before she got taken to the doctor's office on January 11th?
She woke up sick and they took her that morning.
So she hadn't been sick. So that was the first time she had been sick since she had been in that placement?
No, she woke up sick that morning, and so they took her. She had
she been sick previous to this?
Yes, she had been sick previous to that and went to the physician for that as well.
Now on 2/8, were you at that visit?
No, I was not.
Did you have somebody in your place to observe that visit?
Yes. Yes,
And
ma'am.
Do you have notes on that visit?
Not in front of me.
Anything about Jenna in anybody's observation that could caused you concern?
I don't have my notes from that visit, so I'm unsure, other than the injury that she sustained a few weeks before that.
We'll talk about that in just a minute, but why don't you, if we're here for a permanency hearing and to talk about whether the placement is meeting the children's needs, shouldn't you have your notes with you?
I have general notes. I don't have exact details from every single visit.
Okay, well, you testified under oath to this court that the children were doing fine in their placement, right?
Yes, ma'am.
But you don't have your notes in front of you to talk about whether they really are doing fine or not, do you?
I believe they are doing fine.
Okay.
They're
Well,
doing.
let's talk about 2/8. Did anything about Jenna that you have in front of you that caused the department any concern?
I just told you I don't have my notes in front of me from that visit.
Okay, what about Hazel on 2/8? Anything about Hazel that caused the department any concerns?
I just told you I don't have my notes in front of me from that visit.
Okay, and then you also talked about Jenna had an injury a couple weeks before 2/8. What was the date of that injury?
It was January 15th.
And what was the injury?
She pulled a piece of furniture onto her face while the foster mom was cleaning.
Okay, I didn't ask you what the foster mom was doing. I asked you what the injury was. So she pulled a piece of furniture down on her?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. That's pretty dangerous, isn't it?
Yes, accidents happen.
I didn't ask you about accidents. I'm asking if it's dangerous that a piece of furniture is not stabilized in a foster home to where a child can pull it down on her. Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. And in fact, it gave her a huge bump on her forehead, correct?
On her cheek.
Well, first I'm asking about the forehead. There was a huge bump on her forehead, correct?
Yes, there was a bump on her forehead.
Would you call it huge?
For her size, yes, it was huge.
Okay. And then she also had a bruised cheek, correct?
Correct.
And it was swollen.
Correct.
All right. Was there an incident report?
Yes.
All right. And you say that the foster mother was cleaning. Do you have any reason? Oh, let me ask you this. What type of furniture was it?
It was a piece of a bed.
A piece of a bed?
Mm-hmm.
Was it like a bunk bed?
No.
Any idea how a piece of a bed was able to be pulled off by a 1-year-old?
She had taken it apart so that she could clean under the bed and leaned it against the wall.
Well, isn't this more that she was putting the beds together because they haven't had beds the entire time they were there?
Not at all.
Is there something funny about this?
No.
Okay. Now, Jenna's gone to the doctor also, correct?
Correct.
How many times since she's been in this placement?
They do a 3-day, a 30-day, I think maybe 3 times.
Okay, let me rephrase it. How long has she been taken to the doctor for an illness? How many times for being sick?
I think twice.
Twice in 5 months?
Twice in this home, several times in the last 5 months.
Okay, so, and this home has been how long?
60 days.
Okay. And what was Jenna taken to the doctor for other than well child checks?
She has had a couple of ear infections throughout the case.
And was she treated for those ear infections?
Yes, she was.
Anything else?
All 3 girls had like a stomach virus also.
Okay, I'm just asking about Jenna. So,
Okay, then she had a stomach virus.
let's talk about mom's service plan. What services is she ordered to do?
Complete a parenting class, a parenting plan, psychosocial, and follow all recommendations, a mental health assessment and follow all recommendations, complete an ADAC assessment and follow all recommendations, a relapse prevention plan, victim service assessments, follow the general rules, maintain contact with her caseworker, provide proof of a safe and stable home, and provide proof of financial capabilities to care for the children. Oh, and individual counseling and drug counseling.
And currently, mom is at Santa Maria's, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you been out to visit her?
Yes, I have.
Okay. And would you agree with me that she's getting individual counseling at Santa Maria?
I haven't had any kind of proof of that she's receiving individual counseling, only the drug counseling.
Okay, so not individual, but at least the drug counseling, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what about parenting class? She's done that or working on that?
Yes, ma'am. She said she's been attending parenting classes since she has been in Santa Maria.
Okay. And when you say a parenting plan, what do you mean by that?
It is there on her family plan. There's a parenting plan that kind of assesses what she's learned in her parenting classes.
Okay, so it's just something she needs to write out?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The psychosocial, has that happened?
Not to my knowledge.
Have you set that up?
She has a courtesy worker who will be working with her to set the services.
My question is, have you set it up?
No, I'm not able to.
Okay. Has the 2054 been sent?
I did not complete a 2054.
Okay. And you said she has a courtesy worker?
Yes.
Have you talked to the courtesy worker?
Not this week.
When's the last time you talked to the courtesy worker?
About 2 weeks ago.
Okay. And have the two of you coordinated getting a 2054 to anybody so the psychosocial could be done?
She said that she would be setting up services with Ms. Shockley.
That ain't what I asked you. My question was, have the two of you discussed getting a 2054 sent over so she can get a psychosocial done?
Yes.
Okay. And when are you guys planning on doing that?
She said that she would work on it and get it done as soon as possible.
Okay. So the truth is, there's no way, as we sit here today, that Stevie Shockley could have gotten a psychosocial done, right?
We had to wait for her to be 90 days.
Non-responsive.
Sustained.
So yes or no? As we sit here today, there's no way Stevie Shockley could have completed that service of getting a psychosocial done, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, the mental health evaluation, isn't that the same as the psychosocial?
No, it's not.
Okay. And you say she hasn't done the mental health evaluation?
That is correct.
Has a 2054 been sent? And
we don't do 2054s for those.
Okay. Has it been set up?
Ms. Shockley will need to set that up.
Does she know who to set that up with?
Yes, she does.
And when was that information given to her?
October 31st of 2022.
Is that in her family service plan? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you said she's working on her relapse prevention plan at Santa Maria, correct?
She should be able to work on it while she's there, yes.
Okay. And then the ADAC?
She's completed.
What's the victim survivor?
The victim services assessment is to decide if she needs victim services counseling due to the domestic violence history between her and Mr. Williams.
Okay. And who sets that up?
Her courtesy worker.
Okay. But you keep saying her courtesy worker. That's kind of passing the buck. You're her caseworker, right?
Yes, ma'am. But I'm not capable of setting up services in a different
after
region.
Yes, ma'am.
Sustained.
Ultimately, you're responsible, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Have you set up the victim services?
No, ma'am.
So as we sit here today, there's no way Stevie Shockley could have gotten that done, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So she's doing inpatient rehab, right?
Yes.
She's done her ADAC. She's working on the relapse prevention. She's doing her drug counseling. She's doing her parenting. That only leaves individual counseling. Who sets that up?
Her courtesy worker will set that up.
So you're responsible for that.
Yes, ma'am.
And have you sent over a 2054 and gotten that set up yet?
I cannot.
Okay, so as we sit here today, her not doing the individual counseling isn't through any fault of her own, correct?
Correct.
So the only thing she hasn't done is the mental health evaluation, which she has to set up. The psychosocial, which she can't do right now, right?
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
The victim services, which she can't do right now because it's not set up, right? Right?
Yes.
The individual counseling, which she can't do right now because it's not set up, right?
Yes.
So there's 4 things she hasn't done or started out of her service plan, and 3 of them aren't even her fault. Fair statement?
Yes.
Okay. But yet you testified under oath that she's not in compliance on her service plan. Right?
Yes.
And I believe you said, and I wrote it down, hasn't completed enough at the 5-month mark to be in compliance. Do you recall stating that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm looking at her service plan right now. Where and on what page, so I can direct the court to it, does it say that she's on a time period and that certain services have to be done at 5 months? Where does that say that? Because I can't find it.
It does not.
It does not. So is that something that you just threw in there?
It's a assessment that we
Objection
do.
non-responsive.
Sustained.
Okay. Well, the service plan, which becomes an order of the court, is the plan that she has to go by, correct?
Correct.
And that's the one the judge signs. And that's the one that if she doesn't do, she's in violation of a court order, correct?
Correct.
But there's nowhere in there that says that certain services have to be completed by 5 months, correct?
Correct.
So tell me, Ms. Wright, how she's not in compliance as we sit here today.
Your Honor, I believe that question has been asked and answered. I would object.
Sustained. Next question.
Based specifically on this court-ordered family service plan, not anything that you added, based on this service plan, explain to me how she's not in compliance.
Your Honor, I believe that question, I'll object again. It's the same question and it's been asked and answered.
Sustained.
And Judge, may I respond?
You may.
Judge, her reasoning was specifically that she hadn't completed enough at the 5-month mark. I would like to know, based on the service plan that became an order of the court, how she's not in compliance with that service plan. Specifically, what hasn't she done that makes her not in compliance?
All right. I believe we've gone over the services that are outstanding and the reasons why they may be. So next question.
Okay, Judge. Now, what do you need, sitting here today, what do you need Mom to do in your mind for her to be compliant on her service plan?
She needs to complete inpatient treatment. She needs to complete her parenting class.
Okay.
She needs to complete the parenting plan after she's completed the parenting class.
Okay.
When she has completed drug therapy, then she will need to complete the relapse prevention plan.
Okay, let me stop you there. I want to know, I understand she's in inpatient now, she's in the parenting class. I want to know what she needs to do now to be in compliance that she's not doing. I understand she has to complete these services, But what does she have to do now? You're saying she's not in compliance. What does she do now to get in compliance while she's working on all this other stuff?
She needs to set up her assessment for her mental health assessment.
Okay.
And she needs to get with her courtesy worker so that she can set up individual counseling if she's going to be staying at Santa Maria.
Anything else?
As well as her psychosocial.
Anything else?
Set up the victim services assessment.
With her courtesy worker.
Yes.
Okay. Now, have you talked to anybody at Santa Maria about the children being placed or the ability for the children to be placed with their mom?
No.
And are you aware that they have a program where the children can be placed with their mother?
Yes.
All right. And you're aware that that's what we're asking, is that the children be placed with mom within the program, correct?
Correct.
All right. But you haven't taken steps to call anybody or investigate the program?
At this time, the department's not comfortable with the children being
Objection,
placed back with Ms.
non-responsive.
Shockley.
Sustained. Answer, listen closely to the question, answer only what you're being asked.
Have you taken any
Yes,
steps to investigate or look into the program with Santa Maria that allows the children to be placed with their mother?
No. I could if the judge orders us to place the children there.
Okay. Now, could you, have you talked to any of her counselors?
We spoke during the PC.
And as far as talking with her counselors, do you have any opinion on how Stevie's doing on her inpatient?
She seems to be doing well there.
Okay. So any concerns from the counselor?
Not with her progress on drug therapy, no.
Pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Reisinger.
Oh, can you hear me now?
We can.
Ms.
Yes,
Wright,
sir.
you said earlier that my client had missed 3 visitations. Is that correct?
No, sir. I didn't mean that he had missed them. I meant that we had missed them due to the children being sick. He's only missed 1 visitation with the children.
So there's only been 1 scheduled visitation that my client's missed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And has there been any talk or discussion about when he can make that visitation up?
He canceled it, so no.
Okay. So that wasn't due to the kids being sick, what your testimony is.
Correct. The ones that were missed due to the children being sick, we made up with extra time the next week.
And I want to ask you about the services for my client, and can we go over them right quick?
Yes, sir.
And what services are required by my client?
To follow the general rules, to provide a safe and stable home, to provide proof of financial stability, to maintain contact with the caseworker, to complete an ADAC assessment and follow all the recommendations, to drug test, to complete a relapse prevention plan, to complete a parenting class, to complete a parenting plan after he's completed the parenting class, to complete a psychological and follow all recommendations, to complete a mental health assessment and follow all recommendations, to complete drug counseling and to complete individual counseling and follow any recommendations there if there is any.
And my client completed the ADAC, is that correct?
He's completed 2 of them.
And what was the result of that?
Both of them recommended inpatient treatment.
And he's discussed with you that he's working full-time at this time?
He works, from what he's told me, he works for 2 weeks and then he's off for 2 weeks.
And so if he's unable to do inpatient due to his job, to pay bills, pay for everything he needs to, is there an alternate to inpatient counseling?
Since that's what was recommended, that's what the department requests.
Okay. So with my client having to work, provide, pay bills, take care of everything, which is one of the requirements in his parenting plan, he's not going to ever be able to successfully complete this plan because of inpatients being required.
I mean, since that's what ADAC recommended due to his drug history, that's what the department is wanting to see. But he said that he didn't need it because he doesn't have a problem.
Okay. Well, he basically what the discussion was he doesn't need inpatient because he can't perform inpatient because of the work. Isn't that correct?
That's what he told me, yes.
So what are we going to do about this inpatient requirement by ADAC if he's unable to do so with his employment?
Since that's what they recommend, I'm not sure, but he could have at least gone in and done 2 weeks while he was off. He was off previously before that as well. After the first one, he had taken off due to a car accident that he had.
Right.
I mean, he could have at least completed some of it.
And the inpatient that's required, will that work around his work schedule? Do you have any knowledge of that?
I'm not sure. They said that since he has health insurance that he could go to a different facility, and I'm unsure of what the other facility, what they would be able to work with him.
Mm-hmm. And he has completed his parenting class, is that correct?
Yes, he provided me a certificate yesterday.
Okay. And some of these other, as you discussed earlier with other attorneys, some of these other requirements in this plan that you have to set up for my client, is that correct?
I do, and they require him being sober for 90 days.
More than 90 days.
Okay. That's all right. Don't worry about that. That's all I have. I'll pass it with. Sorry.
Yes, Miss Wright. Let's just go back a little bit. Since the beginning of this case, the 3 children, well, the 2 children and Annie, they've been sick since the beginning of this case. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am, they have. Yes.
Have they been sick with the same type of illnesses?
Yes.
And has the department or any of the caregivers brought them to a physician to try to find out if there is an underlying cause?
Not specifically, I don't think for that, but they have gone to the doctor numerous times. And I'm wondering specifically with the middle child, if they may not need to look into her having tubes put in her ears since she continuously has an ear infection.
Have the children been to an allergist or anything to see if that could be an issue?
No, but we certainly can look into that if that's a recommendation.
Would this also be a medical doctor to look into whether the effects of being exposed to concerning drugs during childhood or pregnancy for any of these illnesses or issues?
I've provided the physician with that information because that was a concern of mine.
Now, you're talking about Miss Shockley, and how long has she been in the Santa Maria?
60 days. She went in December 19th.
When did she have her ADEC assessment?
She had one, hers was in October.
Were any of the services that she still needed to be done, were any of them set up while she was still in your region?
Yes.
Which ones were set up while she was still in our region, in your region? Sorry.
Her psychosocial, she was provided the information. The mental health assessment, we had to wait till she was 90 days clean before she could complete that
So
one.
the psychosocial was set up, was 2054s provided prior to her going to inpatient?
I never provided them to the actual therapist after they were done, because she went into treatment when we were discussing all that, and she said, I'm going to go into treatment next week. I knew we wouldn't be able to do them since she was going into treatment in a different region.
So was anything done for the victim services prior to her going to inpatient?
No, she has to be, she had to be sober for that one as well.
Okay.
And she went into treatment right at like the 90-day sober mark, from her drug testing. So right when we were able to start setting up some of her services, then she moved regions and went into treatment.
Is that the same as individual counseling?
Yes.
Okay. Now you mentioned those, but she also has to have part of her service plan, safe and stable housing. Does
Correct.
she have safe and stable housing? That's appropriate.
She has housing, would like to move back to where her mother's place is, but the department has concerns if the children were to return to that property.
What concerns do you have?
The properties where the children were removed from while they were with in a kinship placement, they were not observing safe sleep. They were not observing the request for supervised visit, and the caregiver also failed to drug test and then refused to take the third one. The caregiver at the time also was not completing the medical services that the department was asking.
So that the court is aware the concerns for Ms. Shockley to return and the department not to have concerns. The homes are next door to each other. Is that fair to say?
That is correct.
Okay. And then she also has to provide proof of employment or financial responsibility for the children. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Did she have employment prior to inpatient?
No, she did not.
Did she have, the kids were removed on what date?
September 18th.
And then she didn't go into rehab until December 19th?
Correct.
Okay. Now you mentioned something about a visit that you observed. Well, first of all, how long has Miss Shockley been in parenting class?
She started her parenting classes while she was at Santa Maria, so approximately 6 to 7 weeks.
And she has to have how many weeks according to her family plan of service?
8 weeks.
How many visits has she had with the children since she's been at Santa Maria?
Just one.
And was that the January 5th visit?
Yes, ma'am.
You observed that visit?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have any concerns during that visit about her demonstrating anything that she's learned from parenting?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were those concerns?
There were several concerns. We're concerned that she cannot care for all 3 children at the same time while she's there. During the 2-hour visit, I held the youngest child for an hour and 45 minutes. She handed her to me because she was crying. So she handed her to me to settle her down. I settled her down immediately. and held her for almost the entirety of the visit.
And is that Annie? Just so the court is clear,
yes.
Is that Annie? And that's the 5-month-old?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
So out of a 2-hour visit, you held Annie for an hour and 45 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what is the other concerns?
During the visit, she was unhappy with the way the girl's hair was fixed. So she ripped one of the rubber bands out of the girl's hair and pulled quite a large chunk of hair out.
Which child is that? What child is that?
I believe it was Hazel.
And
the oldest child.
And she's 2 years old. Is that correct?
Yes.
Did that cause you concern? How did the child react?
Didn't seem to bother her too much. She didn't cry. She kind of flinched. But it was a large chunk of hair.
And then what other things, was there anything else that you observed during that visit that caused you concern?
While she was feeding the girls each picked up silverware, plastic sporks to feed themselves like they're being taught. And she pulled them out of their hands saying that they were too dangerous and started scooping the chicken salad, I think it was, into their mouth. And she had just changed diapers on everybody and didn't wash her hands.
Other than that, any other concerns before I go on how the rest of the visit went?
Those were some of the concerns. We're just concerned about her ability to care for all 3 girls at the same time.
Now, when you talk about plastic silverware, was it age appropriate? Was it, toddler silverware, or can you describe what type of silverware for the court?
It was just like the plastic sporks that come with like to-go food.
Who brought the food?
Miss Stevie did. Miss Shockley.
Did she bring anything with her to help her children? Any silverware that she could have brought with her for the visit?
She did not.
Were the children bonded with? Did they appear to be bonded with the mother?
Yes, they were happy to see her. Certainly the oldest 2.
Now, are the children talking?
Yes, both of the older 2. The middle one's just kind of learning, but certainly the older one does speak more.
And when you say speak more, when have you observed a difference with her being able to speak more?
I've noticed in the last month that she's certainly starting to speak more. Her words are clearer. Her vocabulary is growing.
And that's since the placement in the foster family?
Yes.
How was her with toys prior and interaction with toys or anything else with others? Can you describe if there's any changes in that?
When they first were placed into the foster home, the girls didn't play with toys, didn't interact with the other children. They kind of just would stand there and kind of just wander around the house. Now, they've been there about 60 days. They play with the other children in the house. They're learning how to play toys, interact more with people, whereas before they were scared and would just cry if they saw anybody that they didn't know. Now they try to interact with not strangers, but people that they're less familiar with. They seem to really be coming out of their shell, and they seem like they have grown.
Did you let Ms. Shockley know their concerns during that visit and have her and try to redirect her?
I did when she made a comment about if you buy more expensive diapers, then you don't have to change them as often. We let her know that no matter if it's a cheap diaper or if it's an expensive diaper, you're still supposed to change the diaper the same amount of time, no matter what the cost of the diaper
So
is.
why did she stop visits? Or who stopped the visits at the Santa Maria?
She has declined to have the last 2 visits. She was concerned with the fact that the children would have to be put in the car for 2.5 hours one way to come see her.
So that's a good thing in their best interest for the travel time. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Has she had any virtual visits?
No, she declined virtual visits.
It would be kind of hard with the ages. Is that fair to say?
And I'm not sure if she's able to where she's at as well.
When we're talking about that, there's 2 different Santa Marias in Harris that have for women. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
The one that she's at, but that is just for women in treatment. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
And then there's a separate facility that can have women and there's children.
Yes.
And that's the one that you haven't been to at this time.
No, I have not.
Okay. And that's based on, I think your testimony was for her to finish more services first.
Yes.
Have you, and you've never been to that facility?
No, ma'am.
Is part of this case, I know that she has to set up her mental health. Part of the issues in this case that brought the children into care was some concerns with her mental health. Is that fair to say?
Yes, that's correct.
Would you like also to see a mental health assessment prior to a move of the children to live with her at a facility?
Yes.
And would one of your concerns also be that if she left that facility, the children would likely have to be moved again, if not with her?
Yes.
And they've moved already. How many times have they moved already?
They've been moved twice so far.
If they were moved to her facility, that would be 3 times. And if she failed the program or decided to leave the program, that would be another move. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And at this time, the children are all placed together in a foster home.
That's correct.
Although they've had some illnesses and some diaper rashes and an incident with a piece of furniture, have there been any other concerns in that foster home?
No.
Are the children thriving in that foster home?
I believe so, yes.
As far as the father, he is not going into rehab as recommended, correct?
Correct.
He's actually had 2 ADAC assessments. Is that also correct?
That is correct.
He's had one on November and one in December and in January.
Yes, the 1st of January, I think.
Why did he have to do a second ADAC assessment?
Because it expired.
Now, has he provided you proof of his employment?
He has not.
Is that also a concern that he's claiming employment but hasn't provided you proof?
Yes.
So he's only missed 1 visit. How many of those visits, you said, out of the, I'm reading on a court report that there's been 14 in-person visits. Is that correct? Or has there been more now since the report's been filed?
There's been 3 more, so 14, 15, 17 total.
And how many of them has he made it to?
All but 1.
So 16 out of the 17. Now,
Correct.
How many of those visits have you observed personally?
The entire visit, probably 5 or 6, but the ones that are here in the office, usually I go in and check in during the visit and stay for at least 10 minutes.
Have you had any concerns that you've personally witnessed during any of those visits?
Yes.
Could you tell this court what those concerns are?
Initially, he would talk poorly, derogatorily about the mother in front of the children, as well as about the caseworkers in front of the children, and disrespectful to the staff here at the office. he was spoken to about that, and I can say that after that, his behavior has gotten better.
So
we've had concerns with the.
So once he was talked to about those behaviors, would you say he's taken your redirection and acted appropriately as far as those issues?
As far as those issues, yes.
Okay. So what are some other concerns that you've had?
The amount of junk food that he was bringing was causing the children. I mean, not only was it unhealthy, but I understand that parents want to provide treats, especially if they're only with them a short time, but it was causing diarrhea and upset stomachs to the girls when they would go home. It took multiple times of talking to him about it, but I can say that it has gotten better. He now brings a little junk food as well as actual food for the children to eat.
And has he been on time and stayed the entire visit that you've observed?
He is usually on time or a little late, but it is harder for us to get him finished with the visit on time, and we generally go over.
So it's not that he ends it early, he goes over the visit time.
Correct.
Okay.
And it's, when we start cleaning up, diapers have to be changed, and his not taking direction on ending the visit is more, I think, him wanting to spend time with the girls and just making sure that he gets everything done with them as much as possible. I can say that I have seen improvement in his behavior towards us, towards the girls, and especially in the last 30 days, his attitude towards just what's going on and making the best of it.
Has there been a drug test since January 26th? And I'm presuming it was 2023, not 2022. So has there been more drug tests since January 26th of 2023?
Yes, he's done one more in February. It was a UA and it was negative.
He's been negative on his UA since January 9th of 2023.
Yes.
Prior to that, there was some no-show. Positive. The last positive for a concerning drug test was back in October 31st of 2022 on a hair follicle.
Yes.
And then there was a UA, but was that due to prescription medication?
Yes, from his accident.
What would be some of the concerns for the department for the children to go home with Mr. Williams?
Drug use, mental health. The domestic violence hasn't been assessed at this time, as well as non-completion of his family plan.
Are you aware of a recent arrest?
Yes, he was recently arrested for child endangerment charges.
Pertaining to this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is a psychological setup?
Not yet. We were waiting for the 90 days. He didn't drug test as quickly when the case started as mom did. So he is a little further behind as far as like how many days his UAs have been clean.
So we've got to wait to 90 days.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's typical for, and is that also for the BIP assessment?
Yes. And he was told he could call and schedule the appointments, but the appointments could not happen until after the 90 days had been provided. Had been passed.
Is he, even if he's not inpatient, do you know if he providing any proof of attending AA, NA, or any of that?
No, he is not.
Does that also cause you a concern?
It does.
I believe I'm going to pass the witness.
All right, thank you. Back to you, Ms. Walker.
Ms. Wright, as to the setting up the services, is it unusual that you request a courtesy worker to assist with the setting up of services for parents?
Due to her being out of region, I cannot set up services. So we request a courtesy worker. The courtesy worker is the one that is able through our system to set up the 2054s in that region for the parents.
It's not anything that's unusual in specific to this case and having a courtesy worker.
Correct.
You said that Mr. Williams is refusing to go to treatment. Do you feel due to his drug use and history with drugs that he would be able to provide a safe and stable environment for the children if he doesn't seek treatment?
That is correct.
As to, I know there's been quite a bit of discussion about the illness of the children. The illnesses didn't just start in the foster home. Am I correct?
That is correct.
So it's been ongoing since the children came into care?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How long were they in their first placement?
About 90 days.
Okay. And how long have they been in the foster home?
About 60 days.
And as to the placement, and I believe you said you had not visited I guess the section or part of Santa Maria that the children can be housed. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you know if the courtesy worker has visited that part of Santa Maria?
No, she has not.
And the department's concern with the placement of the children there would be exactly why
our concerns with placing the children with Ms. Shockley there at the facility is that she's there to focus on herself, on her drug rehabilitation, on her drug therapy. She was unable to care for the 3 children during a 2-hour visit. So if she cannot take care of all 3 of them during the 2-hour visit, how is she going to do that while she's there? And still focus on what she needs to do to get herself to a place where she can in the future.
And how much longer does she have there in the program?
I believe about 30 days, if she's going to be doing a 90-day stay there.
As far as you know, when the program ends or her stay ends at the treatment facility, she's going back to where she lived at near her mother's house. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Do you know if she has any other alternatives other than the property where her mother lives?
I know she was living with Mr. Williams at one point.
Where Mr. Williams lives, is it a house by itself or is it on property with relatives?
His last known address that I have for him is here in Jasper, and it is a house by itself.
You said that he had completed 2 ADAC assessments?
Yes, ma'am.
Why was there a second assessment?
It had expired.
Okay.
They are only good for 30 days.
Okay, so he did the first assessment, didn't do anything, and the 30 days elapsed, so he had to go be assessed again. Is that correct?
Yes, and at this point, his second one has also expired. It was the beginning of January, so he will need another one.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Right, thank you. Ms. Ketterman?
Nothing further.
All right, thank you, Mr. Reisinger.
No questions, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McPherson.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Any other witnesses, Ms. Walker?
No other witnesses.
All right, thank you. Ms. Ketterman, you may call your first.
I would call Stevie Shockley.
Right.
And Judge, at this time is when I will be showing.
I should.
various
Ms. Shockley, do
photographs
you
from
know
her
how
testimony.
Mr. Williams would be able to visit with the children if the children were placed with you at the Bonita house?
I have only heard from other clients about how that works, and they do allow visits from the fathers and such.
But that would be also that would be a long travel for him as well, correct?
Right.
Okay. You're not set up for the mental health assessment, correct?
Correct. I did try to go yesterday to do it through Santa Maria, but I have to go back tomorrow. So it's a walk-in thing.
All right. So tell me some of the things you've learned about parenting while you've been at the Jacqueline facility and your parenting classes. Tell me some of the things you've learned.
I've learned appropriate play for each child and their age. Like for the baby, it's talking, singing, things like that. For the others, it's like just toys that are appropriate for their age and things like that. Teaching them to feed themselves, and how to put them to bed, whether they wake up in the night, what to do when they do. Usually it's just to go to the restroom. So you would just, take them and change them and put them back to sleep, things like that. That it's very important for the children to be with their parents at this age for their development. That's something that I've learned that's vital for their development.
And how many classes have you been to?
I've been to 4 classes out of 8. And then I also have a parenting coach, which is a separate parenting class that I've started. I would be attending every Thursday. So I start that next Thursday then.
So that you haven't started that yet.
Right.
The pictures that your attorney submitted for you, those were allegedly all from January 5th visit of 2023?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you let the caseworker or your courtesy worker know your concerns?
I remember talking with Tara about it, and she said that, they'd been to the doctor, but I just expressed how badly it looked and the bruising. Like I didn't know where that had come from, whether it was a diaper rash or however, but nobody got up to look or anything like that. But I did express how bad it was.
Your Honor, I believe I'm going to pass her as a witness at this time.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Walker.
I just wanted to make sure I understand your timeline as far as if the children were placed there with you. You've been there for 60 days, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have, even without the children, you would have another 30 days. Is that correct?
Without the children, 30 days. But
okay. And if the children were placed with you, then how many additional days would there be?
I would be allowed to do 90.
Okay, so from whatever point they were placed with you, you would do 90 days, or does the 90 days start after the end of your 30 days? So just 90 days from placement of the children?
I believe 90 days from the placement of the children.
Okay, all right. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Right, and so Ms. Shockley, is it your understanding that the children may be placed with you if you're in the Bonita house and not in the Jacqueline house, correct or not?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay, let me ask you this, and maybe this has been gone over. I didn't catch it. Are you able to get into the Bonita house before having your children with you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but as I understand your testimony, if and when the children are come to be placed with you, that gives you at least 90 more days with them there at the Bonita house with you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Reisinger, you may call your first, if any.
Your Honor, basically, I don't need to call my client. I just want to tell in court, inform the court that we have the same concerns that was Ms. Shockley has submitted to the court. We have the same picture, so I think it'll be repetitive. And we also are in agreement with Ms. Ketterman and Ms. Shockley that we're in agreement and support for the children to go stay with Ms. Shockley.
All right, thank you.
Just for observance of time, Your Honor. That's basically what the summation of everything we would say.
All right, thank you. Ms. McPherson, you may call your first.
Yes, I'm going to call CASA.
All right.
Yes, Ms. McGallion, what would be the first of all, have you been able to observe the children in the foster home?
Yes, ma'am.
And do you have any concerns with the current foster home?
I mean, we have had concerns, but they've been addressed. Like, as soon as it was brought up, it was handled, and we got explanations for bruising or anything that we had concerns of. There is no safety concerns at this point that we have for the children.
And you've observed the children in their prior placement and this placement. Have you observed, can you tell us has there been an improvement?
Yes, ma'am. Dramatically, there has been.
Just briefly, what would be some of the improvements that you've observed?
I mean, just a summary of how the girls are progressing and learning. They are doing so much better than they were in the past.
Do you have concerns about moving them at this time?
I do. I have great concerns. They've already been through too many moves as it is right now. They're doing well with the stability, and I think that moving them at this moment could possibly cause more harm.
So have you had a chance to be able to go to the voting?
To go to what?
To the Santa Maria Bonita house?
No, ma'am. I was going to go, I was going to go with you, but then I got the flu, and I was not able to attend. So I have not made another trip out there yet.
What would be your recommendations today?
My recommendation would be that the kiddos remain where they're at. That I do understand that it's a distance, but we need to be having at least once a month visits with mom and dad. Because, I mean, our hope is that one day we can reunify. But if we don't do any visits, it's going to be more traumatic to these kids, say, 3 months down the road, if they're not having any visits with mom and dad, and then all of a sudden they're back with mom and dad. I have concerns with that. But it is our recommendation that they remain in their placement. They're doing well. There is medical concerns, but I'm not so certain that those concerns have anything to do with their current placement. I do believe that there may be some underlying medical conditions or something that we need to look into with blood work and things of that nature.
I guess with the visits with the mom, you would like to see some, at least once a month visit to see that she's demonstrating what she's learned in her parenting classes?
Correct. And that way you and I are also able to go see it in person, just how she interacts with the kiddos, and how I think the visits are going to be very crucial for the kids, but also for Ms. Shockley to continue learning and growing and bonding with her babies. I don't think at this very young age, I do not think going months without a visit is in their best interest.
Is there anything else before I pass you as a witness?
That's all I can think of right now.
I think I'll pass you as a witness.
All right, thank you, Ms. Walker.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, Ms. Ketterman.
No questions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Reisinger.
No question, John.
Thank you. Ms. McGallion, I heard 2.5 hours earlier. Is that one way between the Santa Benita and the children's placement?
Yes, sir. I don't necessarily know that it's 2.5. I'm thinking it's closer to 2, but still, yes, sir. That's each direction.
Okay, all right. Now, additionally, are you aware of any intake and or investigation arising from some of these injuries?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir. No one has notified me of that.
All right. Okay, any other questions from anyone for Ms. McGallion? All right, thank you, Ms. McGallion. Ms. McPherson, you may call your next, if any.
I don't know if the placement is currently on, but that would be my only witness. I don't see them, Your Honor.
Relatedly, the court is quite concerned about some of these injuries, especially the bruising that was observed with the diaper rash photos. The court is quite concerned.
Not to interrupt, Your Honor, but kind of interrupting, but I believe Ms. Brister may have information on whether or not there were investigations involved with some of these concerns.
Thank you. Ms. Brister, were you sworn in, ma'am?
Yes, I was, Judge.
All right, let me know whether there's been an intake or an investigation.
We did call in and they just did a brief. We made sure that there was an incident report that was given due to it being a foster home due to that facility. And the explanation of the injuries that were given was, we did what we needed to do to ensure that we could come up with why the injuries did occur. And then an incident report was done with the facility for the foster home.
All right, and has there been a disposition?
There wasn't an investigation called in. We just called it in and it was attached to ours to investigate it. And then the facility, the foster home, does their own investigation that doesn't have anything to do with us.
All right, the foster agency?
Yes, yes. An incident report was sent to them.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I do know the RCCO supervisor, and I can get with her on that to make sure that all of this has been done. And then Ms. McGallion wanted me to call her just briefly regarding the diaper rash issue.
Okay, very quickly. Let me first see, is there any questions for Ms. Brister from anyone?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, very quickly, Ms. McPherson, please. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. McGallion. Yes, and I know you you heard about the bruising or the alleged bruising with the diaper rash. Do you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yes, ma'am. I just went through kind of like this but short answer is it very well could be a mixture of their
Judge, I'm going to object to speculation based on her.
Sustained. Has the diaper rash gone away once the powder?
Judge Art, I believe we can ask Dad, but I don't believe it has.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right. Of course, we all want that to continue to be addressed. All right. At this time, the court continues the department as the temporary managing conservator of all 3 of the children. As the court stated earlier, the court has found that both parents are present and compliant with their services. At this point, the court does find that the department's made reasonable efforts to reunify the family. The court, moreover, finds that were a child or the children returned to a parent today, there would be a continuing danger, and it would be contrary to the child or children's welfare. However, I'm neither granting nor denying the mother's motion for placement with her. I'm taking that under advisement. So, Ms. Shockley, don't let that deter you or discourage you. You are doing well, great even. And our next hearing for May the 12th at 1:30. Our dismissal is September the 18th, 2023. Now, if Ms. Ketterman wants to re-urge this motion before or even well before May the 12th, then Ms. Ketterman, just get with my coordinator, Ms. Wallingford, and the court will certainly be eager to hear that. So, Mom, you are doing well. Keep doing everything you're doing, okay? Dad, keep working your services. You're going to have to address the recommendation of drug treatment. So y'all both remember that the law requires me to admonish you when we're in court that if at the end of this case you're not willing and able to provide a safe environment for your children, your parental rights may be further restricted or even terminated permanently. I think I know you all well enough by now. You absolutely, neither one of you wants that to happen. And so don't let it. Keep working your services. Keep working your services. So again, I've neither granted nor denied the mother's motion. I'm taking it under advisement.
Your Honor, can I say something?
Hopefully,
But,
yes. Just a moment.
While you're taking down under advisement, does that need to be decided on within the next 30 days for Ms. Shockley while she's still in this, so she can be accepted into the 90-day program? That's my only question. Or in other words, if we wait till April to do this, is it going to make a difference, or can we do something within the next 30 days to render a decision?
I mean, that's going to have to be determined by them. And so that's one of the reasons I said the court would be amenable to hearing it, even well in advance of that May 12th date.
Okay.
But
okay, thank you, Judge.
Right now, it's slightly premature.
And what time on the 12th, Your Honor? And
1:30. 1:30 in person.
Judge, would I have permission, since I'm in Houston, to appear via Zoom?
You would. Now, if there's, and certainly there's likely to be live, and this would go for the permanency hearing or any hearing between now and then. You may appear by Zoom, just knowing that there may be live testimony taken in the courtroom.
Sure.
All right. So, Mom, Dad, keep working your services. And hopefully you'll be in positions for me to see you, hear from you sooner, a lot sooner rather than later. Okay. So keep up the great work. All right. So I'll sign an order to that effect. And with that, let me look over my notes real quickly. Yes, Mom and or Dad. Regarding the girl's hair, are there special ways or special products that need to be used that are not?
I can send the right hair ties with Dad, or make sure Dad gets those to the next appointment, the next visit. It's because the rubber bands they're using, they put them in so tight, it's hard to get them out of their hair, and they are made of rubber, and it's just pulling their hair. So I appreciate you
All right.
And,
so
and we agree with exactly what Ms. Shockley said. They're too tight, rubber bands, same thing, Your Honor.
Okay. All right. Furthermore, I think Dad's visits or visitation schedules set in place, and that's going okay. I do want to, and I appreciate the mother's concern about the children's travel time, but I will say that the court would allow at this point up to 2 in-person visits a month with the mother, and also weekly virtual. I think it's really critical. And they might glean a lot more than we think, even if it's only a couple of minutes, given their ages. So anyway, all right.
Judge, I'm sorry, keep interrupting, but could we get longer than an hour a week? Because I know they mentioned he runs overtime. He just wants to spend as much time as possible with his kids.
Well, is he getting weekly? My understanding, weekly.
Yes, that's correct. But it's only 1 hour. So we were asking for maybe an additional hour.
Okay. Well, I'm going to keep it at 1 hour, but if the department wants to expand that, and I understand they have been kind of expanding it a little bit, maybe in part because he's been a couple of minutes late. But the department may expand that, even double that, if it's possible. Okay, if it's possible. I think it would be in the best interest of the children in all likelihood, but I just don't know if it's possible. So the answer is yes, they may, but
okay.
It's not a must at this point, so long as it's weekly right now.
Thank you, Judge.
And I think they would want to, also consider just the sheer numbers. We're talking about 3 small children, not just one, in terms of that quality time and attention. So hopefully they can work out at least 2. Ms. McPherson, you have a—
Yes, I'm raising my hand. I just wanted to, since there's issues with the alleged diaper rash and all that, I mean, if the mother wants to supply the diapers to the placement, we will not object. Okay. I think that might be a good thing if that's one of the concerns. Okay. That it's not the right type of diaper. So.
Well, we'll work on the hair ties, the hair dealies, and Mom, what size the diapers would be?
Yes, their dad's been providing diapers, and I keep up on him every week. I call him. I tell him to bring diapers for all sizes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay, with that, please take care. You are excused. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Walker.